My wife and I have been together for 5 years. My stepson 12 had been battling illness for almost his entire life and recently lost his fight. I loved him from the moment I met him, and it feels like my world is falling apart. With the costs the last few months of his life adding up, I had taken on more hours at work to provide for his needs as well as pay for therapy both for my wife and I to learn how to remain a unit and support each other during this time as well as individually. My stepson's biological father didn't often see his son, nor does he generally get along with my wife, mostly just coming whenever he felt like it and taking him out for a few hours. I disagreed with this, but my stepson loved his father and it wasn't my place to try to separate them, so I did my best to just be a good parental figure to him as well. He attended the service and seemed heartbroken. My wife spent a lot of the service with him and they consoled each other, which I do understand the shared connection as parents, but it hurt as I'm also struggling greatly and felt like a parent to him as well. I had planned to discuss it with her after the dust cleared, because I wasn't going to prioritize my feelings at such a time. That chance never came, because a few days after the service my wife had told me her ex wanted to meet up with her to discuss their son's belongings, photo albums, etc. Naturally, I had no problem with that, as I had already kept the things that were sentimental to me. Long story short, my wife came back in tears and confessed that while at his place, they slept together and it wasn't planned, and begged forgiveness. I already know I have to leave. My mental health is hanging on by a thread, and the loss of both a child I considered a son and a betrayal by the only person I had to lean on is too much. But I also know that grief makes people do stupid things, and everyone handles things their own way. If I'm in this much pain, I don't know how she copes with how much pain she's in. I know she didn't intend to hurt me, and that she's a good person who is hurting and looking for comfort. So while I know myself enough to know for my own sanity I can't stay in this marriage, I love her enough to want to be a friend and continue to support her emotionally. My question is, people who have left their spouse, especially during difficult times, and remain friends, how did you do it? What steps did you take to end the romantic relationship with no bad blood and transition into a different type of relationship with them? She's extremely vulnerable and feels completely alone. How do I leave someone in that position and tell them I want a divorce while still making it clear I care for them and am willing to be a friend in their time of need? Lastly, if any of you have ever lost a child, how did you start to heal? My wife 3 years possibly cheated with her boss again. Me 32 male and wife 30 female have been married for 3 years, together for 5 years. We live in Colombo, Sri Lanka at the moment. My wife's boss is 36, married with 2 kids. So the story starts with her cheating on me with her boss when we were having the relationship. I caught her going to a hotel room with her boss. One of my friends worked there and he took photos of them. I immediately confronted her and she denied it, saying I'm crazy. Then I showed the photos and she finally admitted to cheating. This happened when we were having the relationship for around 1 year. I immediately broke up with her and blocked her number, social media, etc. But after 2 weeks, she came to see me and was begging to start our relationship. She said it was a mistake. She wasn't thinking straight and she was stressed with her work and said everyone deserves a second chance. So I was dumb enough to give her a second chance and started the relationship again. But I set up some rules like checking her phone whenever I want, keeping an eye on her, and asked to stop all chatting and calls with her boss unless it is work related. She agreed and everything went well. We got married in 2019 and everything was so perfect until last year December. Last year December my wife got a promotion at work and she said she wants to give her boss a dinner treat for that. We argued a lot about this and she blamed me for my insecurity. And she said that I should trust her because I didn't see any suspicious activity so far after the first time of cheating back in 2018. So she organized the dinner in one of the most luxury hotels here. Mostly people go there for romantic dinners, to propose, etc. And it was a candlelight dinner. And I said I'm not feeling comfortable with that. She again blamed me I'm full of insecurity and promised me nothing will happen. She took a day off from work on that dinner treat day and went to salon in the afternoon to do her eyebrows and a facial. She usually do this before a wedding or any special party. So at this point I felt something is going on. And she selected a more open and revealing dress, but I didn't too much argued about that because she already blamed several times, saying I'm insecure. She went to the dinner and I asked to get back by 10 p.m. She wasn't home by 10 p.m. So I decided to call her and she did not answer the phone. I called her several times and she didn't answer the phone. She returned back at 2 a.m. I was so mad and asked why she didn't answer the phone, what took it so long, etc. in a very angry way. She very calmly said don't freak out. We went for a walk after the dinner and just had a friendly talk. I didn't believe it for a second but couldn't do anything about it either. so I just slided past. This year January my wife said she has to go to Maldives with her boss for a business meeting with a potential client, and said she has to stay there for 5 days. I went crazy as soon as I heard this and we started fighting. She started to blame me again, saying I'm full of insecurity, and I'm crazy that I don't have a proper social life. I've been WFH since the pandemic started. She went the business trip and everything felt okay for the first 3 days. At least I felt okay, not sure about what happened there, but after the day 3 I didn't get any calls from her or couldn't call her. It said that she is out of the coverage area. At this point I lost all faith in my wife and knew something is probably going on. After she returned I asked what happened after day 3, and she said that the client had a private resort in a separate island and he invited them there, and said there's no reception in that island. I asked more details about this resort and island and she said she doesn't remember anything because the client organized everything, and they just got on a boat and went there. Sorry for all the long paragraphs. I just want to give the full context here. My mind is seriously fucked up right now because my gut says something is going on, but I don't have any solid evidence. Any tips, ideas, or suggestions are highly appreciated. Thank you. My wife and I were struggling in our marriage for a good year before she asked to separate around 8 months ago. I was apprehensive and didn't want to separate, but after a lot of talking I agreed to it. We worked out the basics, including that it be a full living separately situation, moved out 6 months ago, and how we'd break the news to our boys, male 14, male 16, just all that stuff. Within the first month of living separately, I started to realize just how unhappy I was. My wife said she was unhappy when she asked for the separation. Around a month and a half to 2 months into living separately, she informed me she was going out with a coworker. She said it as I'm being polite and telling you, but you don't get a say statement. It hurt a lot, as not once did we discuss seeing other people. She insisted in the asking for a separation that it was not remotely about that. During the period after it, one of my closest friends was a great support to me, and one night it turned sexual with him. My bisexuality has never been a secret. I've always been open about it, including to my wife. We continued on for a little, just fooling around, then we got a bit romantic and decided to go out on a date. So I told my wife that I was going to be going on a date with him, and she wasn't thrilled but didn't say anything about it. Over the time him and I started dating, her thing with her coworker fell apart. My time with him has been amazing. I know it hasn't been a lot of time and it's still the honeymoon stage, but things just work with him. It's easy and we fit in a way that I doubt me and her ever have. Seeing just how happy I've been with him, I've been contemplating asking for a divorce. Recently my wife came over to talk about things and asked me to stop seeing him. She wants us to work toward fixing our marriage and even asked me to move back in. I told her I needed time to think, and she definitely didn't like that response. Started talking about our boys and how I need to think about them. Basically just seemed like a guilt trip, but I also worry that perhaps I'm being selfish not hearing her out more. I don't know. I do still have love for her, but I can't honestly say I'm in love with her at this moment. Whereas with him I can say I'm in love with him. Advice or words of wisdom, please. After my last post I really started thinking, asking myself what I want, and decided to move forward with a divorce. I can't go back to a marriage filled with zero affection, constant nitpicking, and a completely uneven level of household duties. Even if I wasn't in love and wanting to move forward with my boyfriend, I still wouldn't want to reconcile. Especially after the messages my 16-year-old showed me from her. She expected him to encourage me to dump my boyfriend and move back in. Mind you, I haven't told her I want a divorce. That was just in response to telling her I wanted time to think. I'm both shocked and horrified she'd stoop to pressuring our boys like that. Needless to say, after talking with my oldest and seeing those messages, I met with a divorce lawyer. We have a prenup that covers most of our finances, so that should be straightforward. The custody of our boys will be the biggest thing, though they are old enough that their say will be taken into consideration, and my oldest has already asked if he could live with me. I haven't told him about the divorce yet. He asked after her messages. Not that it's a big change or surprise, as both boys spend most of their time with me already, as I've been the primary caregiver for them most of their life. My lawyer has advised me not to tell her about the divorce and let her be served this week. I am torn on that. I'm sure he knows best, but it also doesn't feel completely right to blindside her.